Hey Chuck, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And I saw your notice. Looks like the police won't be there for either of these.
No, I think they'll be here. I think I see Nick VS. He's going to be here to present
Oh,
the
Nick's good.
parking.
Okay, okay, good.
Yeah, but the
But
folks in the
the traffic
precinct,
enforcement won't be here.
yeah. So and I
Okay.
see Chuck and Craig are both here now. So I don't know how long you guys want to give it, or if you want to get started right away.
We can give it a few minutes here. Let's see. Hmm. It's just 6:30. Let's give it a couple of minutes.
Craig, you should be able to unmute if you want to.
I'm unmuted. Hello.
Hello. Sorry if I'm hiding at any point tonight. I'm recovering from strep, so
Hmm. That's okay. Well, feel better.
thank you.
Yes. Sounds like everyone has a little something.
That's what I hear. I could encourage
Just
everybody not to.
take your vitamins. That's the new recommendation.
You could prevent measles with vitamin A, supposedly.
No comment. All right. Well, while we wait, I'll give everybody the
Yeah. Why don't you?
tutorials
Right. Why
for
don't you
how
go
we
ahead?
run our virtual meetings. So if this is your first time joining us, or maybe the first time in a long time, welcome. You'll notice that right now everybody in the meeting is muted except for our co-chairs, Chuck and Craig. And everybody's going to stay muted during the duration of the meeting except for the co-chairs and any presenters as we move through the agenda. As we move through the agenda, if you would like to speak, you can participate by going to the react icon on your device and pressing the raise hand button on your device. It's not the thumbs up or the wave, as those will disappear. Only press the raise hand button once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're calling in from the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute whenever you're called on. Uh, be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once you hear your name called by one of the co-chairs if you have your hand up. If you're having problems, you can use the chat to access tech support to help with the Zoom software. It's not to ask questions of our presenters or our co-chairs. They will never see those chats. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you might want to go to the participants section where you will, or the more section where you might find the raise hand feature there. And finally, we encourage you not to raise your actual hand or wave at the screen to get our attention. If you're having any problems, chat me. I'm here for support. And with that, I can hand it back over to Chuck and Craig, and they can get this show on the road.
Thank you. Thank you, Will. And feel better.
Thank you.
Um, Welcome, everyone. We wanted to let everybody know that the traffic enforcement people of the police department, could not make it suddenly at the last minute. So they're not available here. We were looking forward to a presentation from them, but I think they're going to be available next month. And so we'll have that. And so the next item is, excuse me, item 2 on our agenda. And this was a request by the 19th precinct to consider additional parking for them around the station house. And and to present this, I know we have someone who many of us remember fondly, and former board chair and longtime board member and all around good guy, Nick Viest. He's very active in the 19th precinct. So, Nick, welcome. Can we unmute Nick?
Yeah, Nick, just look for an unmute on your device. Nope. Try again. There should be like a pop-up, but if you need to like run away and come back, I understand. Right. Looks like that's what he's doing.
Right, he may have to
Mhm.
come in again so we can hear him.
Let's try that again, Nick. See if that works. He seems frozen too now. Or is that just me?
Well, we could, while Nick's trying to resurrect, we could go to our next item. Unless he can come back. I don't want to keep everybody waiting.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right choice.
Our next item is a public hearing at 134 East 74th Street between Lexington and Park Avenue. It's an application for a new revocable consent. And it's for fence and things that other plantings, et cetera. And do we have someone here on behalf of the applicant?
If you're here representing this application, could you just raise your virtual hand or chat me? If you see a Christopher,
I see a
true.
Chris.
We can certainly give that a try. Chris, if you're the applicant, you can unmute.
Hey, sorry, this is Chris. No, I'm not the applicant. I'm just a
Okay.
member of the public.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Sorry about you. All right. Well, I'll email the applicant and ask them if they're planning to present their application.
I thought they'd be later.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go from where this could be a rain out, no, along with the weather. Let's go to the updates from the New York City Department of Transportation. I saw Colleen. I know Colleen is here. So, Colleen, do you want to give us any updates or anything you want to talk to us about? Can we unmute Colleen?
Yeah. And we also have her colleague from the DOT here as well.
Hi, sorry, it's Colleen Chattergoon from City Department of Transportation. Will, thank you so much. I do have an update that I received from the chair from CB8 and also a letter from Councilmember Menon regarding the signal modifications on 3rd Avenue from East 60th to East 127th Street. The update is that we did modify the signal timing for 50 miles per hour. The signs were changed, so we modified the traffic signal timing according to that speed. And we did receive a letter from the council member, and we are reviewing it, and we will respond to that letter. If the community board has concerns about the signal timing changes, my recommendation is that the board also send us a letter with the questions that they have, and we will review it and get back to the board. Okay? The other thing is that I am working on the York Avenue Kickoff Transportation Advisory Committee meeting. It will be a virtual meeting, and I'm looking to schedule this by next week. I will get back to the board, if not next week, the following week. I will get back to the board with a few dates that we have. Once we have the kickoff meeting, we will come to the community board, just so you know, and we will schedule a walkthrough with some members of the community board, residents, and elected officials along the corridor. So those are the two primary updates that I have for the board.
Thought I saw Nick come back.
You did,
No.
yeah. Thanks,
Hmm.
Colleen. Nick, let's try to
You're welcome.
unmute you. There
I
you go.
think this works.
It works this time.
Hey, Nick.
How are
Hey,
you?
Nick.
How are you? Good to
Good.
see you. Hey,
Good to see
Chuck.
you.
Hey, Craig. How are you? Hey, Will. Very good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, so sorry if there's some extraneous noise here. I'm at the airport traveling. I'm in Fort Myers, actually.
Oh,
So we'll make this quick here. And sorry, got bumped there. I'm not sure what happened. So this request is fairly straightforward. I'll start with the basic request, okay? And it is simply to ask the DOT to do an evaluation of the area in the immediate proximity of the precinct for parking spaces for department vehicles, okay? And I'll just give you a little bit of background about the problem that they have.
you just want to mention it's where it is. It's between, it's on
Yes, it's
67th Street.
yes, the precinct is 153 East 67th Street between Lexington and 3rd. The area encompasses, they would be looking at an area of 68th Street, and then also Lexington Park and maybe 3rd. It's not those aren't. We're not asking the committee to review the spaces at this point. Okay, so it's that's not really what the request is, but that's where the area is. Okay, and so the background here is this, that they have a total of 47 department vehicles. These are department vehicles, not personal cars for the officers. The DOT currently provides 14 spots for the precinct. So they're 33 short. They lost 5 spots when there was an elevator that was built on 68th Street on the north side. I think that had to do with the subway entrance
Yeah.
there. So they asked the DOT, can you come out and look at this area, immediate area, and we'd like to get some spots back, okay? Because we're woefully short for official vehicles, and that doesn't include, they bring in, sometimes they'll tow vehicles and they have nowhere to put them, and so they have that problem as well. That doesn't even include this. This is really for the vehicles that they use for the precinct, and so the DOT, for some reason, said, well, we're not going to do it. We can't do it. They didn't give them a reason. And so I think that what they said was, you need to go back through, the community board, because I think they raised this with some elected officials. So they said, bring this up to the transportation committee of community board 8 and have the request come through that way. So this is what we're doing. So really the request, what we're asking is simply for the committee to approve, to support us in this request to ask DOT to do an evaluation. That's all we want.
Okay. Now I know Colleen is here, and I saw the letter that was, or I saw the note from Colleen. Colleen, is there any thoughts from DOT about why you
Yeah.
didn't want to undertake to do this at this point?
So it's not that we don't want to undertake in doing it. The issue here is that we get a lot of requests for authorized parking spaces, not only from NYPD, but from other sister agencies and from other, from New York State as well. The issue here is that we are unable to accommodate the request because the assigned spaces should only be to only be used for marked on and official vehicles. That's what they are. So I did get an email from Brian Larkin. This, I think it was today I got the email from him stating with a breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a breakdown of what they currently have. And he said that we currently only have 14 DOT provided NYPD parking spots for marked official department vehicles and 47 total department vehicles. That's 33 other department vehicles that we have nowhere to go. So they have 33 vehicles that they need to find parking spots for. Realistically, I don't see how we can do that to create 33 on-street parking spaces for the NYPD.
Well,
Well-
I think here that area has been an area that we've had issues with parking. We have Fox 5 there, and we have other things. And I guess the question is whether, it does sound like it's very difficult to find 33 additional spaces just for the police department. But Nick, you may, we've also heard over the years that there are a lot of other vehicles that are not official police vehicles that get parked around the police, where police bring their own vehicles in. I don't know whether, Nick, you have any thoughts or comments on that.
I don't, well, I don't have it on the personal vehicles because they're not asking for that. What they did say is that 5 spots were lost when they built the elevator. So I think a reasonable request would be to at least get something like that back. What they'd like to do is simply to have the DOT take a look and say, okay, how many spots can they get? They don't expect to get them all, I don't think. I think what he's simply saying is that they're woefully short. So if they come up with a few spots, that's more than they have, and at least it helps with the problem somewhat. So that's all they're asking for is to the DOT to take a look at it and see how many spots they could come up with. It might be a quarter of the number that they're short. Okay, but at least it helps toward the problem that they're trying to solve.
So Nick, let me ask you a question. Are these vehicles rotational vehicles or are they parked on the street all day?
I don't know. I can get you an answer to that question.
Yeah.
I simply know that they're marked department vehicles.
Yeah, I don't want to leave by saying that we would not be able to help. I think I'd like to be a bit practical by saying that, okay, if 5 spots were lost because of the elevator, maybe we can look to see how we can give you back that 5 spots. But again, realistically, we would not be able to create 33 spots for
Okay.
marked vehicles. I think, we'd have to be reasonable about that.
Sure. I think that's, and my sense is that, they're just looking for some help. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that if they could get someone there, then what's doable is doable, right? So that's really what they're asking, is just to have someone come there and take a look, and then you guys evaluate. They didn't give me a specific number to ask for. They just said, point out that we're down 5 spots just from that, problem alone. So my thought is, look, even if we can do a little bit of this problem, it helps them.
Okay, so what would help Chuck and Craig is if we get something from the board asking us to revisit this, and if we can, look to recoup the 5 spaces for the NYPD, within that area. I think that would be great. And then I can, speak with my colleagues to come out there and meet with the team.
Thank you, Colleen. Before we, why don't we see if there are any? We have some board members who want to discuss this. Is there any member of the public that wants to comment on this before we get to the board members?
Yeah, if you have a comment about this or a question about this proposal, just go to the React icon on the bottom of your device and press the raise hand button. Otherwise, we do have 3 board members who have their hands up.
Do you see anyone, Will?
Yeah, Dylan, actually. Go ahead, Dylan.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Dylan.
I just wanted to chime in and say that I think the request is more reasonable for the specific parking spaces that were taken by the elevator. However, if the board does have any kind of resolution on that, I do think it would be important to note that this is a case-by-case basis determination, and that it shouldn't be taken as given that anytime an elevator is constructed, and disrupts parking or anything else, that there's an expectation that it all be replaced elsewhere. Just because, if that does become a principle that's established, I do think that will create a barrier to whenever we build an elevator, which is very important for accessibility. It kind of opens the door to, well, if it's replacing something, where are we going to put that? So if this is workable, if this is reasonable, we obviously need to look more into it. But I do just want to definitely make sure we or suggest that the board put in a note that this won't always be possible whenever we build an elevator. This is not a standard that we're going to hold all elevators to. Just acknowledging that that's an important part of accessibility, and we don't want to create barriers to establishing these sort of elevators. But that's it. I just wanted to make that point.
Any other members of the public here that you see anything? Any public members?
Yeah, one more. Dylan Yen. Dylan.
Dylan. Talk?
Hi. Yeah, I'm a little new to this. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, another Dylan, you mean?
Hello, another Dylan. Yes.
Welcome, the second Dylan.
Thank you. So I understand from watching a lot of the recordings of these is that we've had a problem with Fox, Fox 5 on your side, just completely deciding that they can double park whenever they want, and they've not responded to the community's requests for comment or like move your car, please. Why don't we just give some of their parking spaces away and give them to PD? Maybe that'll force them to respond, right?
We tried to get a response, and that's a sore spot for me, and I think for Craig too, and maybe other members here. And we got a stiff arm from the Department of Transportation that said they wouldn't do anything. And I think they didn't quite understand the situation. And I'm planning to put together a letter. I'll just let you know, Colleen, that's going to come to Ed Pinkar to talk about the history of this and stuff like that. And I think we need to get some action. So I appreciate you talking about that, Dylan. That's another
Have
that's
them
another
double park
thing
for the cops.
we can
Let's see how it works.
think about it. Thank you, Dylan. Any further comments from the public before we go to the board?
No.
See anything, Will? No? Okay.
No.
Let's go to Michelle first. Michelle.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd like to make a resolution that the community board ask the DOT to do the evaluation as Nick has stated. And hi, Nick, good to see you.
Hey, Michelle.
That he has asked for in an effort to get the 19th precinct as many on-street parking places as they can find. And I'd like to speak to this if it's seconded.
Or a second,
Sure.
Judy.
Okay,
Schneider,
Judy
second.
seconded it. All
Okay.
right, let me say first and foremost, the 19th precinct is not just any applicant, not in my mind anyway. And they deserve every effort we can exert to get them what they need and what they state they need. If some resolutions are more realistic, resolutions of the issue are more realistic than others, that's fine. But that's not to say that we shouldn't do as much as we can. You've got the armory there with all, what my question is, and I'll continue to speak on this, is where are these extra cars being parked now? Are you already using all these streets around the armory? 67, 68, Lex?
You know that, Nick?
Are those being used?
I don't know. Again, the answer is that they
Judy.
only have 14 DOT spots
Okay, but we don't know
for
where they are.
official vehicles, right? I
Yeah.
don't know where those are, Michelle.
Okay. So what I
yeah.
would just
Judy,
propose,
you could talk later. We'll talk.
this not to be in the resolution. The resolution is as I stated. But what I would like to propose is certainly take a look all around the armory. Now, I know the armory on the Lexington Avenue side, that is their loading vehicle. That's where all the trucks come for loading and unloading for all of their shows. It's not practical, and we need to give that space to the armory. So that block on the west side of Lexington is not a practical place for the precinct cars. However, the other sides of the armory are. And as I say, we don't know if they're being used or if they're not being used, but certainly, Colleen, if the DOT can take a look at those, I wouldn't want to limit it to the amount of spaces that you can give them now, because you may be able to look along Third Avenue. You may be able to go up as far as 69th. 68th is the crosstown bus, so you've lost some spots there going east, and 67th coming west. But I would certainly ask in the resolution for the DOT to make the best possible concerted effort to find plausible locations for these parking spots. And I guess, would you say, Chuck, you want them to bring, or Nick, you want them to bring those actual locations back to the board? Or do you want the reservation?
No, I think they would bring them back to the board.
Okay, to the board. Okay. So that's the resolution. I wouldn't put any impediments on it at the moment. Let's see what we can do.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Judy Schneider is next. Can we unmute Judy?
Okay, to continue on with what Michelle was saying, 67th Street between Lex and Park, either the north and or the south sides, next to the Armory, they're not loading from there. That's perfect spots for police cars. I think we have to give our police what they need. You say, where are the cars parking? I was at a meeting at the precinct last night. It lasted for over an hour. When I came out and I went to Lexington Avenue, the police cars going down Lex and were double parked, triple parked. They were just wherever they are. It's not good for the community. It's no help for the traffic. If it's that way at night, I'm sure it's that way during the day. And if you want the police to enforce the Fox parking regulations, the Fox people are going to turn around and say, you're telling me where to park and not to park? Look at your police cars. They're all double and triple parked all over the place. So I think it's incumbent, if we're going to get our area cleaned up in the 60s, to get DOT to give the police more parking spaces. So Colleen, please take that back to Commissioner Pinkar. I think it's really important. The police do a great service for us here in the community, and I think we need to support them. They're not just some group or company looking for parking spaces.
Judy. Next to Todd Tyne. Can we unmute Todd?
Yeah, hi, how are you? As a resident on, I'm just trying to pull my Zoom, of 68th Street, 215 East 68th, between 2nd and 3rd. I just wrote a couple of notes. First of all, my mother is wheelchaired. I'm thrilled to have access to another train. I don't know, and this is just, from being on the block, I don't know that we lost 5 spots from the elevator, but I'm a big supporter of the elevator. I do know that Michelle and Judy brought up some very valuable points. 69th, while it's a couple of blocks away, does offer quite a bit of space. 66th Street as well. I also do believe that Fox is causing some issues that are causing a lot of issues with the bus, the parking. I think that, Lex is a possibility. I think that also noticeable on 68th Street between the bus stop and the address of 210 East 68th Street, up until a commercial spot the building is putting out, which I've taken pictures, and I'm going to be contacting 311, cones to block the entrance of their building for parking, which I talked to a parking meter person today to highlight. I think that, takes away the idea that those are spots. I do believe we need the ability to have the police, if they need to double park like they were trying to save us, Nike and Lululemon and Target, to protect us. So I'm all for the police to have the space that they need. And I think we need to address it as soon as possible because there's such a short amount of window on 67th for the police to have parking. But I don't believe there was 5 spots. Not that I'm not supporting that that comment, but I do live on that street. I do use that subway. I don't think that many spots were taken, but we do need to protect the ability for the police to have parking. And I'm an ADA, champion. So I'm thrilled to have this new elevator. But I think we have options and we need to look at them. And I think Fox is a issue that is causing problems for the bus, for the buildings there, and for the police. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Of course, Todd. Thank you. Next, Rita Popper. Can we unmute Rita?
I am in complete compliance with what Michelle said, except that there is something that was left out in that there was not stated that 5 spots have been lost because of construction of a subway entrance. And that should go in there so that you're basically, so at least we can get 5 back, even though we need more, even though that there are, but just leaving it wide open and not explaining why we're coming to the DOT. I think we should be more explicit and say that they have experienced a recent loss in 5 spots, and they need not only 5, they need more, but at least to restore those 5. And
I'll be sure that will go in the whereas statements.
If we
for
put in the
sure.
whereas, if Michelle, we'll get back to you, Michelle. But we have some other board members, and thank you, Rita. Next is Paul Crickler. Well, can we unmute Paul?
Thank you, Chuck. Very briefly, I just want to support what Dylan said. I think if we pass this resolution, the resolution should include making this not precedent setting, that every time there's a ADA or street safety change, that people should expect parking spaces to be restored. Thank you.
I understand, Paul. I don't think we've ever done that, particularly looked at that as a precedent. In fact, our general view here is we don't like to, give additional space, take additional spaces away from the general public or from ADA related situations, because we've always supported the funding for the ADA stuff and continue it. But I mean, it's up to we'll have to see. We'll talk about it and see. I don't have a great objection to it, but I don't think that I think that's something that I don't think we consider it any kind of a precedent if we do it.
So my personal view, Chuck, is that if we do have this, which I know we do have this view that there are no precedents, I can't see the harm in stating it in writing. I think it would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you, Chuck.
Sure, of course. Next is Sharon Poe Marshall. Can we unmute Sharon?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'd like to call a question on Michelle's motion.
Well, Michelle, why don't we hold that for 1 minute? If Michelle, she wants to say something on it, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to, there were a couple of suggestions for amendments to my resolution, so I just wanted to respond to them. I have no objection to what Rita wants to add. I just want the wording to be such that that no one could surmise that is all we're asking for. So however you make that wording, that we're just acknowledging that has happened.
Right.
That's fine, but I just don't want the word anything to be an implication that if possible to give more, that 5 is all we care about, because that's why we're asking for an evaluation. And so that to appraise and evaluate the situation, we
Right.
can acknowledge 5 have been removed. However, we are asking not only for restoration of those 5, but any additional that is possible, to be found. In terms of the other suggestion, I would not take that as an appropriate comment to put in this particular resolution. I think anytime we give parking or an irrevocable trust or anything to anybody, our assumption is that it does not create a precedent. And so in this particular case, where I feel the applicant is a special applicant, I don't see the necessity to add it to this particular resolution. I don't think it adds or detracts. So those are my comments.
I think, by the way, I think we satisfy everybody if we, and I think this was all the idea, we're not going to talk about, we're going to mention it in the whereas clause, but we're going to just say in the construction of the subway entrance. We're not going to even, and if we don't say anything about referring to any kind of an elevator, it doesn't become an issue at all. And so I think that'll make
exactly.
it. Yeah. Okay.
I do want to just say I confirmed going on Street View that there absolutely were 5 spaces that were lost as a result of this, that are clearly identified in, say, 2019 photos as police parking spaces. The sign says specifically, I'm just pulling it up right now. I'm sorry, I just lost it. But it's definitely there. And I think it's worth in the whereas clause is just telling the story, making it clear how we got to this point, but yet at the same time making it clear that 14 spaces for a precinct that has 47 official vehicles necessitates the need to look beyond just that 14. So
right.
It was authorized vehicles only, police department parking that was in place before the construction.
Good. Well, the question.
And I'm sorry, Craig, what location is that you're looking at?
This is on the north side of 68th Street, off of Lexington Avenue between Lexington and 3rd, on both sides of the parking garage entrance. So there were probably, and if you look at the street view from June 2019, you'll see one police van there, and you'll see then there's the garage, and then there are a few more spaces. If you go back to 2009, the spaces may not have been there, but they were definitely there in 2019.
I think the question has been called, and so why don't we have a vote? Those in favor of the resolution don't have to do anything. Those opposed or abstaining or not voting for any other reason should raise their hand.
All right, and let me just run down the
Yeah,
roll call.
you're going to run down the receipt. Yeah, the people here.
Yes, it's myself, Chuck, John McClement, Judy, Lori, Michelle, Paul, Rita, Sebastian, Sharon, TJ. Did I miss any members?
Okay. So do we see anyone? I don't see anyone. Do you see anyone, Will? Opposed or abstaining?
No.
No. Okay. So it's unanimous. Thank you. And Nick, thank you for good to see you. And, hope you're doing well.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Craig. Thanks to the committee. Very appreciative of you guys taking this up. We really appreciate the support.
I'd like to get some nice paper from you. That's
Okay.
that's specialized stationery and paper.
Exactly.
So
there you go, Chuck.
That's Nick's line of work.
That's my business. Anyway, thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate this.
You
and
too.
Thanks to DOT as well. Thanks.
Yes,
Paul.
and I think
okay.
Colleen,
Thank you very much.
I think Colleen is going to try to be helpful here, which we appreciate.
Yes.
Okay. Now, have we found anyone from 134 East 74th Street?
Yes,
Will?
we have. Kelly, go ahead and unmute. And I don't know if there's anybody else on your team. Jen, maybe.
Yeah, we have Jennifer Allen. First off, nice to see everybody.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, and thank you for pushing us down the agenda a bit. And I'm glad I was able to hop on here. So, and then is Kristen on with the architect? I believe maybe Kristen's on mute, but we also have representative of the architect here on the call today. So
Is that Kristen Horrigan?
yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on as well.
Hey, Kristen, how you doing? So again, thanks for having us on. What I can do, I will share screen of the DOT revocable consent application. And I can walk you through the plan here and obviously field any questions that you guys may have. Give me 1 second to pull this up.
Sure.
And let me know when you can see screen.
Yep, we see it.
All right, great. So we are working with the client who owns the residence here at 134 East 74th Street. And the what we're here tonight to discuss is the revocable consent application for extension of the their planter that's out there to better align with the existing planter that's out there today. I will note that this application and this proposed project is also going through landmarks. So with respect to materials, plants, things of that nature, that's all being vetted by those folks. Here you can see in sort of, standard black dark tones is the limits of the existing planter. If I can minimize here. If I can highlight, this is property line sort of running through here. And in red, if I can zoom in here, in red is the extent of what will be the extension of the existing planter space to align with the existing planter that's right here. On this application, the way it's set up is normally we have our overview with all the required information that DOT looks for. And we also have the some photos of what it looks like out there today. So here you can see the existing building that they currently own. And this is the building that was purchased. And this is the existing planter. And again, the idea and the proposal is to essentially extend this planter so it aligns and it looks consistent for the streetscape in front of the building. Here you can see a little bit more photos. Again, the existing planter, and the concept is just to extend it down along this property line limit to the corner over here. Also, just a little bit more of a zoomed in, detailed information on that. What the existing conditions look like, what the proposed condition will look like. We also have some elevations and sections here just to show you and plan what, or actually an elevation, what this will look like. So again, everything in red is what the proposed encroachment is for the revocable consent that we're applying for. And we'll walk through every single detail unless folks have questions, but then we also have some other sections here just really showing how that kind of aligns and where the existing stairs are today. And I get, what we're looking for today is just essentially, confirmation from the folks on this board that, there are no, I guess, adverse opinions or thoughts that would prevent us from pursuing this.
Okay. Kelly?
Is there any questions on the design?
Well, what we're gonna do is first see if there are any members of the public that want to comment on this application. And I don't know if we have any members of the public here.
Yeah, we have one named David. And if you have a comment or a question on this application, I'll just remind you that you can go to the participant to the React icon at the bottom of your device and press the raise hand button there. David, you can look for a prompt on your device to unmute.
David Reed.
Hello.
There you go.
Yes, thank you. We've just had a long discussion about reserving public space for our precinct. And that obviously impacts the public, but there's public benefit. What concerns me and my wife about this application, we live across the street, and it's not aesthetics. It's that there is a taking or reservation of public land for a purpose that seems to be purely private. I know it's a revocable 10-year license and subject to renewal and all of that, but it's a question of principle, not the aesthetics. And the second aspect is that having reserved that land for this dwelling, that land is then in part excavated for the steps going down to the house. So to restore it, were that day ever to come, would involve not simply removing fencing or planters, but actually concreting and raising that area. I realize there may be some architectural reasons why that is, but I struggle to find, and happy to hear, if there's any public benefit to this reservation of public lands for entirely private use.
Yeah. Thank you, David, for your comments and questions.
No, just to say,
Please.
I agree with what my husband has said. There is a difference between public and private. And having lived across the street from that site, we've lived in our house for 33 years. It has been noisy, inconvenient. It still is very noisy. And putting steps there. Is there going to be a gate that kind of locks the entrance, or what? Because around here, unfortunately, steps also attract homeless people.
Yes. Thank you. Maybe I could start with the question regarding just public versus private in the DOT revocable consent process. So essentially, the city has a program, the revocable consent for franchise agreement, and which I guess is required when private entities are looking to, David, as your point, taking space within the public realm, so within the public right of way here. That's the process that we're going through with the city currently for this application. I have to say that it's not free. So what happens is city understands that they're allowing a private entity to use public land, and there is a fee that's associated with that on an annual basis. So, and that is, that entails is the same process if, for instance, we have a hospital and we're trying to connect a steam line or utility tunnel underneath the street to connect two buildings. It's the same process as that, as it would be putting planters or any other decorative elements within the public realm. So that's just the process that the city.
There's a difference between engineering issues and purely aesthetic.
Yeah.
I don't object to the aesthetics. It's maybe we live in a sensitive time where taking of property for private use seems to be the law of the land, or internationally, and it doesn't sit well. If the license was just to put planters up, and but it's also transforming it again for purely private use. It's not that it is so large a space. It's not that. It's really what principles, and that's for the committee, the board to decide what principles guide making a decision like this. This is the transportation committee. It's not the landmarks aesthetics committee, and it should consider. I assume it considers the public benefit that results.
Yes.
Because also it is a street on which there are two schools and children. who go frequently on the sidewalks.
Well, Buckley passes daily, several groups along that sidewalk in front of the 134 property to get to their gym, which is between 3rd and 2nd Avenues.
Yeah. Thankfully, in this instance, this would not have any impacts in walking pedestrian patterns because you have the other stairwell that's right here currently. So you'd have to walk toward the building and walk back.
The kids, though, back up at the traffic light as they wait to cross. And sometimes there's a larger group and they do, they fill the space. They fill the space.
And then to answer the second question, there is a gate will be at the end of the stairs you can see here. To as you had pointed out, folks wanting to hang out or loiter, that's something we want to obviously prevent here.
Okay. All right. Next, Devin Friedrich.
Yes, thank you for inviting me to speak. I appreciate the Reed family's comments, and I think this property that's shown on the screen right now is the only one, apart from the stoop on the block, that appears to have an extended front with a revocable consent. So, I mean, these are, yes, like you mentioned, there are students. This is a heavily trafficked street on the way to the park, and these are very, very narrow sidewalks. And I often get caught behind people and I have to swerve into any open space that I can get. And so, to shut this off would indeed impede some pedestrian flow, even though there is that staircase. I happen to move quickly. I may not represent the average walker, but there are certainly people who would use that space. And I appreciate the comments about the public versus the private realm. I did have another question. Are those planters that exist currently, are those also revocable consents? I apologize if I missed that. So
no, those
what's
are
the status on those?
So those would be those were to remain, and essentially the way it works is any.
I think he was asking. I think he was asking if they were originally revocable consents.
Right.
Yeah. No. So the building is old enough that any sort of encroachment. You see a lot of these old townhouses with the planters in front. If they were built prior to a certain date, they're automatically grandfathered and do not require a revocable consent. So in this instance, these meet the cutoff date requiring a revocable consent with the city.
Any further comments from the public? So let's go to the board.
Oh, you have one more from Dylan Geronimo Kennedy.
Okay.
Yep. Just want to be very quick again. There's a discussion of public versus private benefit. I think there is a benefit to the public of greenery. I think that's nice. We can weigh it as whether that's worth it. But tree pits are also taking away from walking space. But of course, I think we all would say that that is a lovely addition. And so I just want to add that element that it's not just a private versus public. It's, do we want to have greenery, or do we want to have greenery and for it to be properly aligned, or do we want to have that additional walking space? So just wanted to add that note and framing. But thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
So let's go to the board. Sebastian Hallam Clark is. Sebastian, good. You're on.
Thank you. And thank you to the presenters. Really appreciate how you are revitalizing this building. I know we're not looking really at the aesthetics here, but the architectural changes I do think look very nice. I echo the concerns about the sidewalk being taken up. Our sidewalk space is precious. And I also just really appreciate the comments from Dylan about the value of the greenery. I'm honestly a bit torn here between the sidewalk getting a bit narrower versus the value of the planters, and just really appreciate the robust discussion that we're having here. So thank you.
Michelle Birnbaum.
Thank you, Chuck. Yeah, I traditionally do not approve of these revocable trusts for exactly the concerns that the Reeds have expressed. And that's been my feeling. all along, except for some very unusual circumstance. Am I to understand here that the owners own both of these buildings now, the one that already has the planters, and then they now own this one as well?
That is correct.
that
And they're
correct?
being combined. Yeah.
Okay, and they're being combined.
Yeah.
And that the stairwell entrance exists now, and the new acquisition is that exists now. You're not building stairs there, correct?
Believe not. Kristen, if you're on the line, you have better familiarity with the building architecture.
Yes, I think it would be helpful if you went back to that first slide that shows the existing condition.
Here we go.
I believe the previous piece. Yeah, exactly. So this was previously a commercial extension set back from the line of the current planters, and so there was a slight drop into the building, but the proposed would be new stairs with a new gate and railing in front.
So the entrance to the building, I'm not quite understanding. The entrance to the building now is you walk into it level with the street?
Yes, that was a previous existing condition. In the new proposed, the facades will align.
First of all, you're fading in and out, but if somebody else can address this, I still haven't got the answer to my question. Confirm what I'm saying to make sure, because you're fading, they're static, and I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, Michelle, we can get back to you on that with that exact response. Right. I'm sorry, we don't have it direct.
What I'm asking is, it seemed to me from the picture that you have, not the rendering. If you go back to the picture.
Yes.
Okay, so as we're looking at that, at this moment, you walk street level into this building. And in addition, that's correct, right? And in addition to building, to extending, and I believe if I could see it correctly, you're coming out a little over 3 feet. Was that, it was very small letters.
3.1 feet.
Okay, 3.1. All right. Okay, close enough. So you're coming out about that much into the public way. But in addition to that, behind that proposed gate, or fencing, which will align with the fencing next to it, you are also going to excavate so that you can go down about 3 or 4 steps. Am I understanding it correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And you are getting enough pitch without extending any further than 3.1 feet past the building line. You're getting enough pitch to go down 3 steps. An average height of a step is what, 6 inches, 7 inches? What?
Yeah, and Kelly, if you go to the last page, page 6, I think that shows it.
Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah.
Well, so it's 4 steps down from the sidewalk level to get to the level of the entry into the building.
Okay,
which
so
is similar to gutter and townhouse
entrances. Yeah, so this would be the new entrance here, Michelle.
That's a new entrance. Therefore, you're lowering the door. You're digging into the building to bring the doorway down.
Yeah. In answer to Michelle's question, you're not going more than 3.1 feet with the new stairs.
Yeah, that's what I was clarifying. All right. Now, all of that is going to be a landmarks discussion.
Right.
So I'm on the landmarks committee. Is this going to come to our committee, or are you doing this at staff level?
So we actually already went through the landmarks process, I believe, at this point, a couple years ago. Kelly or Jen, feel free to chime in on the exact timing of this, but landmarks was very receptive to this approach.
On the staff level. So you have no plans to come to our landmarks committee. We have a community board landmarks committee. Are you planning to come to our committee?
just give me one moment. I'm just checking to see if it did go in front of the committee a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of time, Michelle, so we can
All right,
confirm.
I'm asking that question for a couple of reasons. If this is in a historic district, and you're doing, this kind of alteration to the facade, it would be nice if it came before our landmarks committee, who will not deal with the revocable trust. You're in the right place for the transportation committee for that. And the only reason I say that about the landmarks committee is because they would be concerned about appropriateness. So they would want to know about materials, what's the steps going to be, what's the front door going to be, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. Excuse me, this was passed by landmarks, landmarks in April 2023. It was 134, 138 East 74th Streets. And the resolution was to approve the application as presented. It was voted 34 yes, 5 no by the full board.
Okay, that was at our committee. Okay, I want to know if it came
Craig.
before us. So thank you.
That went through landmarks. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And landmarks,
thank you,
I
Craig.
believe
That was
also,
helpful because
and
I
landmarks
assume
also approved.
Okay, I assume there were materials that were presented, and so our board approved those materials, and you're not changing anything about that. Okay.
No.
Correct.
So we're just talking about the revocable trust. Okay.
Correct.
I am in opposition 90% of the time of this kind of taking of public property. I don't see the need for it. It doesn't belong to a private owner. I don't see any particular benefit. And in general, I don't like to see anything encroach on public space. Our streets are precious. I don't see a reason for this to happen. So I will oppose it. And I hope our committee members will oppose it as well, because, we've had people come to us with this that would make an argument that you didn't make, saying that, well, the stairs, you see, that staircase comes out even further. And because there's something on the street that comes out even further, why can't we move our planters and our fencing up to that point? In other words, there's always a reason to justify an extension, but it's public space, no matter how you slice it. If you feel you don't want a stairwell there without a gate, you might want to reconsider keeping the entrance at street level. But to my mind, I don't see the necessity to go further with this. And in addition, visually, I do think it is a blight, because if you look at the fencing coming all across on the first picture that you had, I think it's slide 2, where the actual, no, there's an actual, not just a rendering. There was a picture of the fencing all across.
I mean, all that's getting replaced with nice new fencing.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's fine.
Because this is a streetscape improvement project. We're trying to make the area look better.
Okay, I understand, but I think it's too much. It's too busy from a visual point of view as well. So for all those reasons, I'm in opposition to this. Thank you, though, for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Rita Popper, can we unmute Rita?
To make a motion to approve the irrevocable consent that has been asked for.
Is there a second to that? Can we see?
Yeah, Sharon.
Okay. Is there further discussion? So we'll take a vote. And so those who are in favor, this is an approval, don't have to do anything. Those who are opposed or want to abstain, or have any other reason for not voting on this, please raise their hands.
We can just lower the hands first.
Yeah, everybody should lower.
I already did.
And now, okay.
Let me read the roll, and then we can raise the hands.
Oh,
sorry, whatever. Either way,
Craig will go through the roll as you're using.
All right, we we have myself, Chuck, John McClellan, Judy, Lori, Michelle, Paul, Rita, Sebastian, Sharon, TJ, and then I guess Stephanie as a public member.
So those who are opposed or abstaining or not voting for any other reason should raise their hands. Paul.
No.
Okay. Michelle.
No.
Sebastian.
No.
Lori.
No.
Sharon.
No.
Stephanie.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, Craig,
So
do you have a vote total?
Yes, let me just confirm, but I think it is if with Stephanie as a yes, I think that
Yes.
brings us to 7 yes, 5 no.
Okay. 7, that's a nice close vote. 7, okay. Before we, yes, Michelle, you got us, yes?
I just have a statement or a question as we go forward. Many of us have our reasons for voting no on these, and I just would like to propose that in the future, those that are in favor of them, I'd love to have some rationale. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, I would just point out historically, we've approved most of these revocable consents because the fact that the Department of Transportation has knowingly provided a reason for people to use the public way if they meet certain requirements, and those are requirements for space and, you know, being away from trees and being away from various things. And ones we've opposed have generally been have certain things that we found, you know, offensive in a lot of different ways, not aesthetically, but from a streetscape sign or the fact that it didn't blend in with the neighborhood, et cetera. So that's historically been the way it is. But I don't want to get into further discussion on this, Michelle. So because we should move on. But I think, you know, obviously we can have those discussions if people want to discuss that, people who are in favor of those things. And okay, Judy, you haven't spoken before. Do you want to comment on that?
No, I have a point of information, and I may not be correct, but I don't think Stephanie Reckler was listed when you called out the names as a public member for the first resolution.
Okay.
Craig and I chatted about that. It's corrected.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Judy. Okay. And now Colleen had given us her updates, and is Colleen still here in case? Yes, thank you. And now we have there's any old business or new business, and we have Colleen here to deal with any of those issues that might be DOT, you know, transportation kinds of issues.
We have a hand up from the public from Dylan.
Yeah,
And then
yes,
from
Dylan.
Michelle.
Dylan, yeah, yes. Go ahead, Dylan.
Hi. Sorry, this might be a little long-winded, but
That's okay.
Thank you guys very much for having me. It's interesting to see that I can actually participate.
We welcome the participation, and yours especially.
So my question is regarding the Third Avenue light retime, which kind of reduces the time lights and the throughput of Third Avenue to 40% to 50 miles an hour to better accommodate bikes. This kind of decision was made by DOT without notifying the community or our council member. And it reduces the throughput of, well, Third Avenue. I live on the corner of 69th and 3rd. I am TJ's neighbor. Hello. I don't know if he's still here. Hello.
Yes, he is. He's
I
a
live
member of the committee.
I live in 200. So right down the street from you guys. And you know, it's been a nonstop of honking, people honking jingle bells all day with their horns. And especially with congestion pricing turning Third Avenue into the main northbound route, one of the main northbound routes off the upper level of the 59th Street Bridge, you know, I'm not alone in this observation. Council member Menon's office has been kind of like inundated with complaints to the point where she's written a letter to DOT asking what's going on, and it's even garnered its own article in the Post. DOT called it, of course, a minor adjustment. This reaction from the DOT that will break things and then beg for forgiveness later in favor of cyclists seems kind of like a slap in the face to, us in the community. We already agreed to a complete redesign of Third Avenue in favor of cyclists, and I urge the DOT to restore the previous light timings to balance the needs of cyclists who go 25 miles an hour and run reds anyway, to those of us who are in vehicles, whether it be a bus or a cab or car, that are used when it's raining and 10 degrees out, right? That's it for me.
Be snowing if it's 10 degrees out, but that's okay. Just kidding. Anyhow, but Dylan, you should know that we as the community board expressed our concern to DOT that this change was made, which we, that they make light changes and they usually minor light changes and they don't necessarily consult us, but there was no consultation or any kind of presentation. And I know that Colleen is here. I don't know if she did say before they're going to be looking at this again, and because they got council member Menon's letter and stuff. So I think, and there've been a lot of people who've come to us and have come to her, obviously, to complain about the situation on Third Avenue. So do you want to comment further, Colleen?
Sure. And as I mentioned, and Dylan, thanks for your observation, but just a point of to be taken is that DOT not only caters to cyclists, we cater to all users of the roadway. And a lot of our safety improvement projects focus on primarily, again, all users of the roadway, not only to cyclists. We focus on pedestrians, which is priority, drivers, and so forth. The other thing is that, yes, we did get a letter from the Councilmember Menon, and we will respond to that letter. And as I mentioned earlier, any questions that you have, if you can put it in writing and send it to the Manhattan Borough Commissioner's office, to Borough Commissioner Ed Pinkar, we will be more than happy to respond to the questions. And we changed, again, we modified the signal timing because of the speed limit. The speed limit is 15 miles per hour. And from what I know, Third Avenue is much safer than what it was. And the fact is that we are monitoring it. We're going to continue to monitor it, and we will come to the community board and we will share, our findings with the community board.
Thank you, Colleen.
You're
okay.
welcome.
Andrew Fine is next. Unmute Andrew.
Oh, thank goodness you called me next because I was going to have a coronary here.
Well, we don't want to have that happen.
Well, maybe some people do.
Well, I'll think about
it. So Colleen just said, she literally just said the speed limit is 15 miles per hour on Third Avenue. It is not 15 miles per hour. It is 25 miles per hour. The de facto speed limit on Third Avenue is now between 12 and 15 miles an hour because that's as fast as you can go when they time the lights for 15. We know what the speed limit is on Third Avenue. The buses, the taxis, the passenger vehicles should not be secondary in consideration to bikes being able to travel freely at a even pace. So first, I'd like just to correct Colleen, and I'm sure she probably recognizes her mistake that the speed limit on Third Avenue is 25 miles an hour, not 15 miles an hour. Do I have that correct, Colleen?
And you know what, Andrew, absolutely correction. We modify the timing for 15 miles per hour, and that's you're absolutely right. It's not the speed limit. Yes.
Yeah, and now you cannot go over 15, so it might as well be the speed limit because unless you're gunning the gas for a half or a quarter of a block, you're not going 25 miles an hour. I wanted to, and thank you, Dylan, for bringing this up. And it is very frustrating to drivers, bus riders, cab riders alike. That's ridiculous. My initial purpose for being here was to ask the DOT what happened to the alternate side of the street parking on Lexington Avenue to clean the avenue. As you may recall, during COVID, they did an offset bus lane on Lexington Avenue. And in the course of doing that, I think accidentally, they removed any window of time at all for street cleaning on Lexington Avenue. And I complained about this a couple of years ago, and DOT came around, and then they said, we're going to do a pilot program, which is, I don't know why it's a pilot, it's just simple alternate side and cleaning the street. But they said they were going to do a pilot program on the west side, and they did put up all the signs. And then Colleen told us, I think it was probably 9 months ago, that there was good news. I think it was last summer. Good news, we're extending this pilot to the east side of Lexington Avenue. We're going to have a window of time that we can actually clean the street. And that hasn't happened. I'm not seeing any change of the signs. And I would point out that the DOT will literally redesign entire avenues to double the size of bike lanes or install bike lanes. And in that time, they can't simply change a street sign. So that's question number one, what happened and when's this going to actually happen? It's not that difficult. We need our streets cleaned. Lexington Avenue is a pigsty. We need that fixed. And secondly, my question for the DOT would be, we met with, we being the New York City E-Vehicle Safety Alliance that advocates for regulation of e-bikes, met with Mayor Adams, I think it was 7 or 8 months ago. And he spoke freely and in absolute terms that he backed Priscilla's law, which would regulate and license and plate every motorized bike in New York City, which we need because 96% of all the accidents that happen with e-bikes are hit and runs, and our victims have no justice. And Udanis Rodriguez subsequently came out in December and contradicted exactly what the mayor told us. So that's my second question. What's the deal? Is the DOT acting in a rogue fashion, as reported by the New York Post, that said that Udanis Rodriguez is going rogue and setting his own agenda? So, A, what happened with the east side of Lexington Avenue and alternate side parking for cleaning? And B, what's up with Udanis contradicting the mayor?
So, Andrew, I believe those signs were installed. I'm going to confirm that. In terms of my commissioner, I'm not going to speak on behalf of that topic. If you'd like to find out, I suggest that you, email or write a letter to the commissioner.
Well, I've not only done that, I've been on Zoom calls with the commissioner and in person with the mayor, and I'm getting mixed signals on that. But in terms of the signage on Lexington Avenue, I see no sign of that whatsoever. So if you could please follow up with the community board as to why that east side is not signed and why it's taking so long. I'd appreciate it. And thank you for your for being here and answering.
Here, Andrew. Okay, let's see. Devin Friedrich is next.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to Dylan's point, about the honking down in the 60s. I think, you have a situation where traffic is moving as a mass below 60th Street, not just individual drivers, but it's 25 miles an hour, sort of on the whole. And then you hit 60th Street and now it's 15, and the whole mass slows down, and you have merging from the Queensboro. I understand all of that. But, I think, this is a pilot program, and I think that taking into account, like Colleen said, I appreciate her clarification, all the different priorities on the street. I understand that the DOT is piloting cargo deliveries on bikes. And people may have noticed, these Amazon sort of windshielded e-bikes, moving slowly, but taking up less space, not double parking. I mean, maybe double parking, and that's a different discussion about loading zones. But so there's this broader effort in the city to have freight moved in different ways, and to minimize noise and particulate pollution from trucks. It's of course important that these vehicles moving at 15 miles an hour, the chances of death are diminished significantly in pedestrian impacts, even from 25 miles an hour. getting big trucks off the road and replacing them with smaller vehicles that move slower will further improve those conditions. And, my experience on an electric city bike, I slow down on 3rd Avenue because I move faster than the lights. So if the issue is about e-bike crashes with pedestrians, of course, there's issues with recklessness around the city, and there are different reasons for that, different, pressures placed on drivers by the apps to complete deliveries as fast as possible. There's an issue there to solve, and there are bills in City Council in Albany to that effect that will, clean up that practice and change the algorithm in the apps. But the 3rd Avenue change slows down traffic and minimizes risk to everybody on the road. So I mean, I think that my suggestion to Colleen, I think that the pilot so far is proving promising. And if there's this bunching issue, these blocked intersections, the conflict between 25-mile-an-hour traffic and 15-mile-an-hour, it might be worth extending it further down and continuing the renovation of 3rd Avenue all the way down so that there is smooth flow of traffic and that everyone can have a safe, calm, stress-free, trip wherever they're going.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chuck, before we go into the next speaker, I do
Yeah.
have a question for Colleen. I'm just, hi, Colleen, just seeking a clarification. I know that you corrected your statement earlier about the speed limit on 3rd Avenue. Earlier, you alluded to signage being posted on 3rd Avenue. Is that something that also is not actually the case? Just want to confirm whether you had said before signs were changed, I guess, to reflect the 15 miles an hour, but have signs actually gone up?
No, that signs have not changed. It was just the
Okay.
timing that was done. Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure of that, because I think one of the challenges here, I think, stems back to the fact that this wasn't necessarily put out there, whether it be to community board aid or to the public. And then clearly there's a transition phase where people are getting accustomed to it. And I think, and this goes back to my signage question and points, that if there were signage there indicating that it was an effective change or slower traffic ahead because of that, and people knew that it was intentional as opposed to people not moving at 25 miles per hour because they think that's the speed limit, that would perhaps reduce the extent to which there's honking, because I don't think most people are aware of the intent that is going on here. Now, I mean, from my perspective, if this is going to be creating a safer environment and it's going to cost 3 minutes of extra travel time along this corridor, which is the calculation of the difference between the effective speed limit and the actual speed limit, then that's something that certainly could be worthwhile. I just want to make sure that it's something that people are aware of, and that people are um, and that those who need to make adjustments as a result of it are doing so. For example, New York City Transit, if buses now are going to possibly be moving slower as a result of this because they are going to hit more traffic lights and have more dwell time at lights trying to get to stops, that does affect the on-time performance and reliability of the buses, and the schedules should be adjusted. So I just want to make sure that on my broader point, that the transparency on this would be really, I think, beneficial to everyone, and hopefully help this be a success if it is a pilot program that is meant to inform what may happen elsewhere.
Okay, I think Emily Jordan is next, a member of the public. Unmute, Emily. Go ahead. Hi.
Hello.
Okay, you're on.
Yes, hi. Just a quick note, since we are talking about the 3rd Avenue bike lane and have Department of Transportation online. So I want to actually call out an ad. This is how I learned about the 3rd Avenue bike lane changes. An ad that Department of Transportation posted on Facebook that I thought was just really inappropriate. It starts off with a quote, "Oh, I just hit every green light for 2 miles on 3rd Avenue. It was amazing." The video basically has a countdown to start. It features a video of someone on a bicycle racing up Third Avenue in the bike lane, sped up camera, video game music, the person swerving around vehicles, swerving around bike vehicles that are making left turns along the way. They speed all the way up Third Avenue from 61st Street to 96th Street, and at the end of it, there's a checkered flag, like the whole thing's a race. And I just think it's really irresponsible messaging and just disrespectful for those of us who care about bike safety. I don't understand how they thought that was appropriate as a message at all. Again, if any of this is about safety, I just wanted to call that out.
Hey, Emily,
That's it.
I'm not familiar with that ad.
It's on Facebook. I can send it to you.
I don't know if that's something that we would put out there. We don't publish
It is
ads.
on the Department of Transportation Facebook. Maybe it's called NYC DOT Original Audio. I don't know if it's like TikTok or
I don't.
what.
We would not publish something like that, Emily. If you can forward that link.
See Dylan Yen is holding it up, and like I said, I could send it to you also. It is
If
very
you
much
can-
on the Department of Transportation's Facebook page, but I can send it to you.
Sure. If you can send it to Will will forward it to me because I'd like to see that ad.
Who's Will?
The district manager, Will
The district
Brightfield.
manager, community board aide.
I'll put the email address in the chat.
Thanks. Thanks. I'd
Okay.
like to review that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, because it was highly inappropriate. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Jenny Whitney, who hasn't talked before. Jenny, there we go. You're
Hi.
unmuted. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I live on 73rd Street, and I just wanted to voice my support actually for the retiming at the intersections on 3rd. I actually am not a bike rider. I don't own a bike, but as a pedestrian, these improvements are really important. Just slowing, excuse me, slowing the cars down is super substantial for pedestrian safety. And I'd welcome the increase in bike traffic, less congestion on the cars, and just a more sustainable and accessible option for travel. So yeah, I like to see that, and I'd like to see more of that. Thanks.
Thank you. Dylan, yeah. Go ahead, Dylan.
Oh, wait, was that for Dylan Yen or Dylan Geronimo?
No, Dylan Yen.
Okay.
I thought I said Yen.
Hello. So glad to hear. Thank you, Colleen, for clarifying. I was like, if I've been speeding at 25 miles an hour and I didn't know Third Avenue was a 15-hour mile an hour zone, I'm glad I was Andrew for telling me. I might be in the vocal minority here, or not so vocal minority, but it's, there is somebody who said, we should retime Third Avenue for 15 miles an hour at the entire Third Avenue. I think there is a balance to be made between, saying, oh yes, we're going to retime the entirety of Third Avenue, when a lot of it is, people need to get places. And when you start adding 5, 10, 15 minutes to everybody's trip times, people need to get to work, people need to get to places in New York. This is New York, this isn't some idyllic suburb. So I understand the DOT's need or want to increase pedestrian safety, and we should be doing, everything that we can to increase pedestrian safety. But at some point, if you're riding a bike and, when your DOT is posting, Mario Kart style videos of you speeding around pedestrians, and the majority of the people at the time, people in the bike lane are trying to run me over, it speaks a very different tune to increasing pedestrian safety. And it feels like you're just, prioritizing cyclists above everybody else because they're better, while I'm sitting in traffic and almost getting run over by a bus because nobody knows the lights have been retimed. Sorry.
All right, let's see. I guess Andrew, fine. Oh no, Dylan.
Thank
Let
you,
me have
Chuck.
Andrew, hold a second.
No, Dylan just spoke.
No, it's a different Dylan. We got two Dylans here. Dylan Geronimo Kennedy. I'll get to you, Andrew. Go ahead, Dylan. Dylan number 1 or 2, I don't know.
Dylan J in this context, or Dylan
Right.
K, whatever. Um, I want to point. I'm watching the video now, and there's kind of concerns about cyclists swerving. And we're talking about how dangerous the cyclists are. I also do want to highlight that when we talk about the cyclists kind of moving around the cars, that video also demonstrates plenty of circumstances in which the cars are kind of in the middle of a crosswalk, right in front of a cyclist, when the cyclist has the green light. That's the whole point. So when I watch that video and I see dangerous behavior, now I might not necessarily have engaged in the attempt to hit as many green lights or whatever. But when you watch the video, I do not at all get the impression that the cyclist is the threat. I keep seeing various cars kind of continuing to move when they don't have the light, making left turns when there's someone in the way and they should be yielding. So I just want to say there's another aspect to that video that I think other people might be missing.
Okay, thank you, Dylan. Andrew, fine.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Chuck. I'm kind of like flabbergasted that the DOT's representative is unaware of the DOT's social media, which makes speeding up Third Avenue on an e-bike the equivalent to a video game where they are literally dodging pedestrians, other cyclists, turning cars. And listen, to Dylan number two's point, we have a major problem with double parking in New York City, and it can create so much congestion. And this is something that the political winds in New York are unwilling to face. I mean, they're in the pocket of the delivery apps, and so they get high roller status on all their parking tickets if they actually get a parking ticket.
They get them, but they have a different status. They get them.
They get like
They
70%
get
off.
discounts. They get discounts. Yep.
And if you have your back door open, it's no longer double parking. It's in the process of delivery, even though they stay there for 8 hours and congest all the streets. So Dylan number two has a point. But the DOT here willingly admitted that they are prioritizing bike traffic so that they can go without missing a light, whereas everybody else, which is 90% plus of everybody that's on the road, has to suffer in order for bikes to have the convenience of seamless travel. This is essentially planned congestion. And between their complete disregard of all double parking, like Fresh Direct and Amazon, literally setting up in the middle of the avenue as if they own the place, which is insane. They have their own pylons, and everybody's seen it. They're on every other block, and you wonder why there's traffic. And then they complain, oh, there's so much traffic. We better charge people for being in their cars. This is just ludicrous. And finally, and thank you so much for your time, but the DOT, I mean, come on. They keep doing things without coming to the community and the community board. They don't care about us. They don't care about CB8 or any CB because they just do this on their own without any input. It's just like, what was it? Like the car share, remember that? Like Truck It and all that garbage, and all of them went out of business. But somehow the DOT came to the CB and said, oh, we're thinking about doing this. Oh, we already did it. So can we please, Department of Transportation, can you please, if you're going to make a major change, can you please seek community input before you just say, it's a pilot, we're doing it? Because we know when you do a pilot, it's like a foregone conclusion. So that's all I'm asking. Please listen to the community. Please come to the community. Please stop doing things without the input of the community. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, all right. Thank you,
Not
Andrew.
too much to ask.
I'm going to say I'm just going to say that at this committee, we've worked for many years with DOT. And while we've had sometimes concerns where we think they're not coming to us when they should, they've been very cooperative on any number of things. And I think it's a mischaracterization to say that they're just bypassing us all the time, because they don't. And I think that Colleen particularly tries to be as helpful as possible. And so I want to say that that's not how we view at this committee, and I think at this board, that's how not we don't view EPA that way, and we try to work with them, and they try to work with us. There's certain things that over the years have come down, sometimes from City Hall where they have no choice, and they've implemented them without really working with us. But that's very few. And when we've asked the department to look at things, they've looked at them. We've asked them to change things, they've changed things. And so I think it's something that I consider that we have a very good working relationship with them, and so I don't subscribe to that view at all. So
Yeah,
I don't think the
Chuck,
committee does either.
Yeah,
And
Chuck,
I completely agree.
yeah, Chuck,
100%.
it's Colleen, and I'd like to think that the agency has an excellent relationship with the community board. I mean, yeah, sometimes things may fall through the cracks, but at the same time, we do take accountability for our mistakes. But we are not here to institute or implement without the community feedback. We appreciate our working relationship with the community board. We appreciate the feedback that we get and a lot of our safety improvement projects. The thing is that, I don't recall, making a comment that I am, for cyclists. I'd like to say, and I'd like to clarify that as an employee of the DOT, I have to balance what I do on a daily basis. And yes, we take into consideration the safety of not only cyclists, but pedestrians, motorists, and again, all other users of the roadway. And some people may not be happy with what we do, but overall, the majority is very, very happy and content with what we do, because overall, we've seen on our Vision Zero initiative that fatalities are down. With a lot of our safety improvement projects that we've instituted citywide, we've seen that pedestrians are very happy, and cyclists are very happy, as well as motorists are happy. So you win some, you lose some.
Thank you, Colleen.
You're welcome.
Okay, okay, Michelle.
Yeah, I want to bring up an entirely different subject, but I can't help but comment on this one. I don't think in any way that Colleen, she's a representative, you're representative of the DOT, Colleen, but I don't think we could hold you accountable necessarily for DOT decisions. You're here as their representative. I don't know how much of a decision maker you are. You may want to clarify that, but I don't hold you personally responsible as for being the messenger. I think I can say that the DOT is partial to cyclists. And I think I can say that if you're worried about pedestrian safety, then you need to be worried. They need, not you, they need to be worried about accountability. And if they want to be worried about accountability, then they should care about licensing, about speed limits for bikes, about all those things. Pedestrians aren't out there in a vacuum. We are cars. Cars are not going through the city hitting pedestrians as though they're in a bowling alley hitting pins. And as a matter of fact, fatalities and accidents have increased since there are more bike riders on the road, because the more entities you put on the road, the more accidents you get. However, having said all that, I don't hold you accountable at all. I think I'm grateful that you come to these meetings, and I'm grateful that you bring our thoughts and feelings back to the DOT. I, for one, and I know I have voiced that to you both publicly and privately, I was quite upset that all of Park Avenue on Saturdays in August were turned into a bike lane up until like 129th Street without any information or any input from any of the residents, of which there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands And when I looked out on a Saturday, I could count on my hand the number of cyclists that were coming up the avenue, which was virtually empty. So I question the need for that. But as I realize that's not your decision. So I just wanted to get the comments out there, but I really have a completely other issue, which I would like to address to our co-chairs. At our last meeting, I brought to your attention what's called a backpack on the Bishop's Crook light post on 86th Street. Craig was savvy enough to bring up a picture and showed it to the committee at the time. I asked that it be put on the agenda. You said it would be. We had an agenda of 1 or 2 items this month, so I'm surprised that was not on there. But if you don't recall, it's a 5G. It's called a backpack.
Oh, I remember it. I remember it.
Okay.
Yep, I
And
do.
you didn't know much about it. What it is it houses a 5G network. I believe the decision for that is from our what's the DOI, our informational
Yeah, it's
something,
called the
not do it, but it's the other one. OTI. It's from OTI.
Right.
Now, the reason that's very important, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, it's under the same contract as the 5G towers that you see around that are 32 feet high. It's the same contract with the city. It houses or will house or can house the ability to provide 5G wireless to passerbys in the street. Theoretically, it does not go into premises, into buildings, so it is not providing that service to anybody else. It is supposed to be installed where it has been determined that there is a need. There has been no determination that there's a need. I'll just use 86th Street between Park and Lex. There's no need for wireless there. And we actually have a link
LinkedIn,
yeah, on the same block. So there's no need for it. Now, that backpack also is subject to Section 106 review at the FCC. The only way you can have review is if you notify people that it's being proposed. If nobody knows that it's going in and nobody knows that it's there, then there's nobody available to review. Now, these are the same people that are putting in the 5G. And it was my hope and remains my hope that this becomes a priority for this committee, since you're handling these 5Gs, I assume, because it's on the sidewalk. I don't know what other committee of ours it should go to, but I think we need to have a presentation about this. If it's the same company, I know it's the same contract. I don't know how many companies are involved in that, but I think we need a presentation on it. I think they have the same rule that if it's under 10 feet 5 inches from a window or a building, that, I don't know that it does have to be reviewed because you can file a Section 106 on it. So either way, it should be reviewed, whether or not we
I think
have a
I think I
decision
got
to approve it.
we got the picture, I think. And
Yeah,
we'll
you
put it
do.
on we'll put it on the agenda. I think it slipped through, and also we thought we were going to have, a lot of discussion with the traffic enforcement people. But we'll definitely we'll talk. Craig and I will get together and we'll look at it and put it on the agenda for next month.
Thank you. And whoever the appropriate people are to come and talk to us about it and what their rationale is, so that if we ask them these questions, they'll have the answers, so we don't just have a discussion amongst ourselves.
We also didn't want to put it on prematurely because we didn't have the answers. I don't know that we know for a fact that this is related to the Link 5G program.
We do know. We do know. We know that it's subject to 106, Section 106.
Well,
is that Link 5G or is that a separate contract for separate 5G coverage? Because 5G coverage for the cell phone companies requires more.
Craig, let me explain. It's the same contract as the 5G towers. My only point of mentioning the Linksy on 86th Street is because if their claim is that there's no service on 86th Street, because you're supposed to have a rationale that there needs to be service, I'm just pointing out that there's a Lynx right across the street. I'm not saying that those two are the same contract. They may be, but I'm not saying that. But I do know that the 5G towers and those backpacks are the same. And I'm not sure, but I think also the pods are in the same contract. You know, the top of the light pole that can have like 4 or 5 pods way at the top of the light pole. These backpacks are put on the side of the light pole. I don't know what the rationale is for why one's at the top and one's at the side.
Listen,
I don't know.
Can we not get into all these details now? We're
Well,
going to
I'm only getting into it because I'm responding to what I think was misinformation. But I
okay.
take you at your word that you'll put it on the agenda with the
We're going
appropriate
to talk to OTI and we're going
Great.
to put it on. We'll look into. We're going to
thumbs up.
Okay. Paul Crickler.
Thank you, Chuck. I just want to add my comments also about DOT and Colin working with us. I completely agree with what you both have said, Craig and Chuck. Secondly, I would like to say about this 3rd Avenue bike lane. A couple of people have made comments today about how important it is to get to places quickly. This is Manhattan, zoom, zoom, zoom. I can tell you what I think is more important than getting there quickly is getting there at all, not being killed on the way, or just not getting there, being maimed on the way. So for those who would like to actually have some hard data, since that bike lane went in, I'm doing broad numbers here, numbers of injuries, including serious injuries, are down order of 40%. Deaths are down double digits. I don't have the numbers to hand. What I do know is that every single category of user of the street, deaths and injuries are down, pedestrians, cyclists, and people who drive cars. So frankly, I don't see why we would talk about anything other than the fact that we're making major changes, improvements to our ability to get around the city without being killed or maimed. That to me is the most important thing. Thank you very much, Chuck.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, seeing none, I guess we're ready to adjourn unless there's anyone else who would like to say something, but we appreciate everybody coming. And we'll see a lot of our board members next Wednesday at our land use meeting.
That meeting starts at 6 p.m. instead of 6:30. So everybody write that down.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. And it's at Rockefeller University, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
No. Rockefeller
it?
Research Labs at MSK.
Oh,
Across
is
the
that where
street.
it is?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It's the same MSK place we were just
67th where we are usually.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And well, thank you to everybody. We appreciate it. And we are adjourned.